Hey everybody, Dave back here again. Hello, I'm right here. Something kind of special is going on today. So I know that what we love here on this channel is setup videos. So today I want to do something a little bit different because later today I'm going to be out with a client, which I rarely do anymore, but this is a special old client, and I'm going to be working close protection or executive protection. And I'm going to be with this client for the next couple of days. This is not something I do very often anymore. I'm the operations director for my company now. I don't spend a lot of time out in the field with clients or with our principals, but there are some old clients who have been with me most of my career, and I've worked with many times over many years. And those clients I will still put on a suit and take care of. So I wanted to talk to you guys today a little bit about executive protection and the setup involved. This is not a duty belt. This is not for patrol use, as you can obviously see. Today we're going to talk about what I like to keep with me when I'm taking care of a VIP, when I'm taking care of an important client, or a high-level principal. And the things that there's a few things out here that I don't actually normally keep with me, but I know plenty of other guys who do. Some of this depends on what position in a detail you're working, and other things are pretty much standard across the board. So let's get into talking about some of the things that go along with setting up successfully for an executive protection detail. Most of this is going to be from the perspective of an AIC or agent in charge. Okay, now what we do with our details is there are two of us who run a detail. There's our AIC who's glued to the principal, and if you suffer an AOP or an attack on principal or gunfire of any kind, your AIC, that's me, will be the one to literally get in front of the bullets or in front of the threat, take that principal into protective custody and evac that principal ASAP to a safe distance. The other person who runs the detail alongside with me is our team leader. Now our team leader is responsible for leading all of the other agents on a detail. So together, myself representing the interests of the client, what does the principal want to be doing, where does the principal want to be, what is the principal's request, we'll work in conjunction with our team leader who is looking out for the safety of the detail and running the detail effectively, efficiently, and successfully. You do have other people in a detail who will be better and more armed than I choose to be. My job is rarely to actually engage a threat or shoot back. My job usually is to protect that principal at all costs and evac that principal to a safe designated area. So that said, every agent in the detail has to be prepared for a firefight. Every agent in the detail has to be prepared to engage a threat and to step in to fill any other possible role within that detail. So there are some guys who work in much more marked uniforms who aren't necessarily in suits. And they're carrying pretty large caliber rifles and all sorts of weaponry, and they look much more like a tactical officer. But those of us working inner ring or close protection, working principal client protection, we're going to be dressed pretty much as the principal will be. We're going to be dressed to fit into any environment that the principal's going to be in. So the principal we're going to be working with for the next few days is very much a suit and tie type fella, and his family is very formal, and the events that we'll be doing with him are very formal. And so I've got a couple of suits laid out. This is just a standard suit, but something I want to talk to you guys about with your suit. This is the very first step of successful close protection. You can see on the screen there's a variety of things that you're going to be carrying with you. Even if it's not all of this stuff, you're still going to be carrying with you a pretty good amount of stuff on any successfully loaded protection detail. If you're in a suit, the last thing you want to do is be stuck with a suit that's tailored to fit your body if you're going out to a private dinner or, just on your own time where you're not carrying all of this stuff. When you put a suit like that on, you are going to bulge and print absolutely everywhere, and with all this stuff, you may not even get it buttoned. So the very first thing you do when you buy a suit, knowing that you're going to use it for close protection, is you load up all of the gear that you think you're going to normally carry with you, and you have that suit tailored to fit with whatever you have on it. This suit, as with all of the others I've picked out for the next few days, this suit is tailored to fit me successfully and well, with virtually every pocket filled, weight on my belt, firearms, etc., etc. So the suit is already tailored to fit the things that I need and print as little as possible. The next thing I want to talk to you about is your shoes. Okay, the shoes are very important because obviously you need a pair of dress shoes in order to go with your suit. But here's the thing. Now, yes, these shoes are yet to be polished and cleaned for this detail. They've been sitting in the closet for a while. I don't wear dress shoes most days. But here's the thing with dress shoes. Yes, you need to look the part, and if you're wearing a suit, you want dress shoes. But you also need to be prepared to run. And so one of the first things you want to do with a new pair of shoes is have the soles taken off, the slippery dress soles taken off, and go to a shoe guy, a leather shoe guy, and have new rubber soles put on those dress shoes so that you have traction in all sorts of terrains and environments, and so that it doesn't ruin the look of the shoes from the outside or from the top. These will still, once they're polished up and cleaned, these will go nicely with the suit, but I will be able to run without slipping in any sort of environment. So it's very important that you get your clothing ready for the job at hand. So again, you're going to buy a new suit, you're going to equip yourself, and you're going to have the suit tailored around the stuff that you're going to be carrying under it, so that you don't print, and so that the suit isn't too tight and it doesn't look ridiculous with stuff bulging out of it everywhere. You're going to buy the suit a little too big, and you're going to have it tailored to fit. Then you're going to buy your dress shoes, and you're going to take the soles off, and you're going to have a shoe repair guy re-sole them with rubber soles so that you have traction in a variety of terrains. Next thing you want to think about is a belt. I just happen to use this plain leather Perry Ellis belt, but the reason I like it is because it's a thick, sturdy leather, and it is plenty strong enough to hold up the assortment of gear that will be riding on it. So this is a pretty stiff and thick black leather. This is just a regular Perry Ellis belt. I bought it probably in the same place I bought this suit originally. But when picking a belt, you don't want to just worry about what looks the best, but you got to feel the thickness and the texture and the rigidity, and make sure, because you're not using a duty belt. So you got to make sure you pick a dress belt that can do the job. Most times you're going to need a tie. There's very little to worry about with the tie, other than you don't want to make any political statements. You don't want it to have any sort of a crass attitude on it. Nothing that could, even if you know your principal, you don't want to risk embarrassing or causing a scene with anybody your principal might be meeting with. So even if I know my principal feels one way, I'm still going to avoid any sort of a statement or any sort of a opinion or anything like that. In this case, this tie, I have to use this tie because the principal I'm going to be working with the next few days gave me that tie, gifted me that tie several years ago, and I rarely wear it because I rarely wear suits other than, consultations and potential client meetings, but even then, rarely a tie. This tie pretty much sits and is used when I see this client. So that's the tie. Now, let's get into the firearms first. Most of you now know my standard duty pistol. This is my Glock 22 40 caliber. with the RMR red dot sight, with the Streamlight TLR2, with the Apex trigger, slightly extended magazine. But certainly as opposed to any sort of a duty holster, I now use this Kydex pancake holster. This rides right up against my body. It does not hang down like a duty holster. This is basically a pancake holster, but made of Kydex. I really enjoy the carbon fiber finish. I ordered that when I had this made. And this is pretty much just a standard Kydex holster made to fit this firearm and with room for my optic to sit. And so I love this very much. This sits right on my 3 o'clock, right where I would be used to having my main firearm. On my ankle, underneath the suit pants, rides my other 40 caliber Glock, the 27, equipped with a Streamlight TLR6. Now, it's not just because I'm a Glock person that I carry 2 Glocks, both chambered in 40 caliber. There is a very good tactical reason that I do that, and that most agents I know and work with do the same thing. Not necessarily the same Glocks, but their primary firearm and their secondary firearm are going to be chambered in the same caliber and manufacturer's magazines. And the reason is tactical proficiency and tactical efficiency, excuse me. It is extremely efficient when you are going to be on foot and whatever you carry with you is what you've got. It is extremely tactically efficient to carry only one sort of magazine loaded with one sort of ammo and be able to swap that between weapon platforms. For one, it cuts down on the muscle memory needed to remember I'm firing which firearm I reach where for which magazine. There are times where that sort of thing matters less, but in a situation like this, where you're limited on the ammo you can carry in the first place, and the last thing you want if you suffer an AOP of any kind is to have to do anything that's not immediate muscle memory. So I carry both of those 2 Glocks so that my standard Glock magazines can fit and ride in either one of those pistols. And I don't have to worry about which weapon platform I'm using when I grab my magazines. It will work in both pistols, and it's just the most tactically efficient. I also, I didn't pull it out for this, frankly, because I'm not going to be carrying it and using it, but there was a time when I carried often a Kel-Tec Sub 2000, also chambered in Glock 40 caliber. Which is a rifle that folds up in half. You can put it on a 1-point sling and carry that underneath a suit fairly concealed. And if you're not working AIC, if you're working more of a point position or a perimeter position, a weapon like that can be extremely useful. And again, the tactical efficiency of being able to swap between your primary pistol, your secondary pistol, and your primary long rifle is an unbelievable benefit. So I do also have that Kel-Tec Sub 2000 chambered in 40 caliber as well, although I'm not going to be using that on this detail. There are other perimeter agents who will be armed to that level and higher, but it's not going to be me. I do not normally carry a taser with me, and I'm not going to be carrying a taser with me today or over the next few days. But I do know a number of officers, a number of protection agents who like to keep a small little taser with them. This is the Taser Pulse, which is a civilian model of the regular taser that we all know and love. Has the exact same taser technology, still incorporates a light and laser just like regular tasers. It's the size of a very compact firearm, like a subcompact firearm. It's not just a stun gun. It does use taser cartridges, and so you can both dry stun and fire the probes. I believe the standard cartridges reach 15 feet. So I am not going to be carrying this with me. I don't normally carry a taser with me working protection. There have been times where I have, but they were isolated incidents and I carried it for some particular reason. I don't normally carry these with me, but plenty of guys do. So that's something that I know plenty of guys who will rock underneath their suits. What am I going to have with me? Besides my firearms and besides my extra magazines, I am going to have a small ASP extendable baton. I keep this with me pretty much all the time on a detail, just because there are plenty of people who will want to engage with certain principles you might be protecting, who might be high profile, who might be somewhat controversial, and oftentimes those people who want to engage don't present an active threat per se, where you'd want to go through a full evac and call an AOP or anything like that. But those people can get rowdy, they can get in your face, and you do want a less lethal form of close open-handed combat protection. Close combat, open-handed, what am I trying to say? Close quarter combat, open-handed protection. There we go, let me try that. So I normally keep an ASP with me, and I keep it in this little leather Bianchi sheath, and it rides right on that belt and no problem. So I will have my ASP baton with me. The other thing I like to keep with me is a flashlight. This is, as some of you already know, I love my Streamlight Stryon HL. This is my Stryon HL. It's small enough to ride with me, and it sits in this little, who makes this? This is a, you know what? I don't even really know who makes this. There's a logo on the back, but boy, is it worn off. Stallion? Found this somewhere. I've had this little thing for years. Anyway, that holds my Streamlight and rides behind my pistol, and no problem. I don't keep cuffs with me. Normally there will be one or two of the perimeter point agents will have cuffs of some kind or restraints. But as AIC, as someone glued to the principal, the last thing my responsibilities will ever include is spending the time to actually detain someone or take someone into custody. If anything gets to that point, the principal and I have long hightailed it out of that situation, and we are far away in a Suburban riding to a designated safe zone. So all I'm going to have on my belt is the flashlight, my main pistol, my extra magazines, and my baton. That's it. What else? Two things I like to keep in my pockets on any detail. A knife, a good knife. This happens to be a 0 tolerance that I love to keep with me. Sort of a tactical knife, but it's really not that thick and obtrusive. It's fairly thin for the type knife that it is. This is a 0323 with 154 cm steel. This is an automatic Tonto blade with a serrated edge. Not only do you keep this, a knife really has nothing to do with self-defense in a scenario like this, but you always want to be prepared to be as much of a help to your principal as you possibly can. If there's a thread, or if there is anything that requires any sort of a sharp bladed tool for the job, I'm prepared for that. The other thing I like to keep with me is a monocular. You'd be surprised how often I and the team leader use devices to see far away. It can be extremely helpful in a wide variety of instances to be able to see a face, or see an encounter, or see an action happening a little bit further than your naked eye can make it out clearly. So especially doing well, it's not to say I do estate security really, but we are going to be up at this particular principal's home for a while over the next couple of days. And the home is situated on top of a big hill, a big mountain, if you will. And there is a lot of open terrain leading up to this particular principal's property, and so several of our estate security agents have binoculars. I'm going to keep this monocular with me just because I find this extremely useful and helpful to have. In your chest pockets, very important you keep your identification. If you have a badge, or if you have a company card, or if you have an agency ID, or whatever you have, make sure you keep your ID with you. You are not dressed in a uniform bearing patches or nameplates or insignias or anything like that. You're dressed as a civilian for the most part, even though you might stand out and people might know what you're doing. It's important to keep your ID with you, because just because your principal gets in somewhere, you got to make sure you get in there too. And in another chest pocket, I keep a notepad. Notepads are extremely important all the time, always important. I keep this extending zebra pen with me. It rides nicely in the notepad, has a soft tip for touch screens, and it folds up and extends. And notepads, extremely useful, especially if you happen to notice or observe something or a particular face or person, and you want to make a memory of it, document it to pass along to your team leader or to other agents, or etc., etc. If you get notes from local law enforcement agencies, if you get bolos, if you get whatever might come through, it's important to make sure you've got your notepad. Also extremely important to make sure you've got a trusty watch. This is a Breitling that I love and trust. It's important to make sure you've got a trusty watch, probably not something you would wear on duty like a G-Shock or something big and beefy and rubbery. Doesn't really go with a suit. Again, you want to dress and look the part. So I've got this Breitling, and that's going to ride on my wrist. Next thing, your earpiece. Earpieces are probably one of the most prominent and recognizable elements of any protection agent. And again, you know, let's distinguish between protection agents and bodyguards. Any big thuggy dude can be a bodyguard, and many of them are. Bodyguards, as an old mentor of mine once explained the difference, bodyguards will beat up anybody who gets too close to you. Protection agents will see that person coming much, much further away and not let them get to you in the first place. That's just an expression to say that a protection agent is so much more highly trained in all forms of security, from advanced work to post-action and analysis, and everything in between, that you know, most people who work as bodyguards can win a lot of street fights, and that's great, but a protection agent, and particularly a detail of protection agents, will keep you in such a safe cocoon that you won't encounter a situation where a bodyguard will have to beat up somebody for you. Anyway, your earpiece, probably one of the most important elements of a protection agent's collection of gear. Of course, this is about as subtle as a means of communication can get. Of course, this clips to the back of your collar, and this will run over and sit in your ear. And then it wires down to two things. It wires down to connect to your radio, and from there, it will wire down the sleeve of your jacket to your microphone, which will clip onto your cufflink or jacket cuff or wherever you want to clip it. And this microphone will never really be visible to almost anybody because you simply will have it inside your sleeve, and when you go to use it, you'll simply curl your fingers, press it, and speak into it without anybody ever really seeing it. So the earpiece and comm setup, of course, extremely important, extremely important. You know, if you're out of communication, if you're out of comms, then you've really got bad problems. And of course, one of the other most recognizable elements of any successful protection agent is sunglasses. Now, boy, have there been a lot of urban legend, myths, and false information out there about bodyguards and protection agents' sunglasses. I've heard people say, well, they wear sunglasses so that if they're looking at somebody, people can't see where they're looking. That's not really true. In fact, on the contrary, if I'm scanning a crowd and I see somebody who I'm feeling iffy about, I see somebody acting what I deem to be suspicious or erratic or reaching a lot or wearing something that's out of season or out of style for the environment, and I'm watching them, then you know what? I want them to see me watching them. I want them to know that I see them and I'm tracking them and that they are not as subtle and undercover as they think they are. I want them to know I see them. And so those are not pitch black, dark glasses. But, you know, in that effort, I would not be happy if I'm looking at somebody and they can't tell I'm looking at them. I've also heard so many other reasons why protection agents wear sunglasses, but I'm going to tell you guys right now the most important reason that protection agents wear sunglasses. Not only to keep sun and glare out of our eyes so that we're not blinded, but when you're in a crowd or working a rope line or frankly just near your principal, you get things thrown at you on occasion. Bodily fluids. I know a guy who had acid thrown in his face. You get a glass of water even, or a glass of wine or a soda, depending on how offensive your principal may be to some people. Frankly, the reason I wear those glasses in more situations than I need them just for the light is to protect my eyes if somebody throws something or launches something at my face. The last thing I want is to lose my sight. If I lose my sight, my principal is vulnerable, and I cannot allow that even for a second. So that's pretty much the loadout. That's pretty much the setup for working close protection with a high value principal, and that's what I'll be doing the next few days. So unless I come across some cool piece of gear or for some reason entirely change my setup, probably this is the last you guys will see of this for a while. But I just wanted to lay all that out for you so that you can see the differences, and the differences are numerous, obviously, the extreme differences between working a patrol type duty where you're in full uniform, where you're choosing between duty belts, either a belt slide holster or a drop leg holster or different sorts of leather accessories, versus a close protection detail, which is obviously you travel much lighter, you travel much smaller, and the ability to stay mobile is exceedingly important, obviously, because, you know, while close protection agents work hand in hand with police, they are not police. And so if we suffer an AOP, if we get into a situation, it's not like we have a ton of backup that's rushing to our aid. We've got the members of the detail that are with us, and we've got what we're carrying on us, and that's about it. So we have to carry things that are highly effective, tactically efficient, but still allow us plenty of ability to run long distances or far, preferably not, but just in case you need to have the ability to grab your principal and literally pick them up and carry them into a vehicle or a safe environment. And you need to make sure that you retain as much mobility as possible, all the while carrying the things that will be most effective for you to complete that detail and keep your principal safe. There you go, guys. Hit me up with questions in the comments, or I'll see you guys in the next few days. Thanks for watching. See you soon.